one of my ideas for a show would be having two people sit here. They have nothing to say to each other for a half hour, and they just sit there during the time. We all rolling?
We're rolling.
Good. And it's just a matter of us having our own conversations and what we can. No, it's so funny because when Donna said that we're rolling, immediately all the thoughts that I had and all the ideas that went gone.
Fluttered away.
I was reading Norman Lear's book. This is the guy who was All in the Family and did all the producer, and he said it because he went to a therapist because he would have this thing about writer's block. And he said, and so finally the therapist got to him and he said, okay, with writer's block, it's like in a theater and somebody yells fire and everybody crowds to the exit at the same time trying to get out. So your job, the only thing is to keep everyone calm so that they can then come out and exit one at a time.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that a lovely?
That's a great way to think of it because it's still all up there in your head.
Exactly, and that's what we can, and that's what we're doing. This is Phyllis Snodgrass. Phyllis and I go back a long time, way back to when we were both in Victoria, Texas, and I was doing television, and Phyllis was with the Chamber of Commerce, heading the Chamber of Commerce then. Fast forward to today. And here we are, the reboot of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation and Habitat for Humanity, which you are the CEO. And we're going to be talking about that and many other topics. So, Phyllis, tell me about what connected you. Why did you want to go to Habitat for Humanity? And then we're going to get into a little bit about what it is all about and all.
Oh, sure. So, I was super blessed and fortunate that someone that had known me in prior career lives looked at an opening at Habitat and thought of me and brought me aside and said, I think I found your next job. At that time, I wasn't looking for something and hadn't even contemplated if I were to look something, what that would look like. So it was a little bit of a shock, but we had a lunch conversation. The opportunity was put in front of me, and it immediately intrigued me.
What intrigued you about it?
Well, it had the nonprofit experience that I had really come to know and love, and that ability to work on change in a community. It was a faith-based organization that hugely appealed to me. It was in real estate, and I had an accounting degree in a specialty in real estate accounting. So I was like, okay, that. They run a thrift store, and I've always had a dream of someday running a thrift store. So I was like, okay, chalk that off my bucket list. It had so many different pieces to it that were really appealing and intriguing, and it was a complicated business with lots of different operational units underneath the same umbrella, and I was really kind of looking for more of a challenge in learning something new. So I didn't know what the buckets were, but it checked off every bucket on my list.
Isn't that amazing? I find that the universe has a tendency to show up, and however I have internally configured. So if I've internally configured myself for curiosity and creativity, that the universe, the opportunities will show up for me to express those things.
Absolutely. I look back at my resume today, and it looks like someone had very thoughtfully planned out what my career path would be. And I would credit my Lord for doing that, because it certainly wasn't me. I didn't have it in mind, but I did learn to listen to that voice and say yes.
Yes.
When something came to me that I knew there was a reason why this was here, and you just in your gut, that's right. And every time that happened and I said yes, it was the right next thing, and I learned something from it that helped me to the job after that.
I find it that still small voice, which I call intuition, and that's one of the things, and I find that it's a muscle. I actually have to go to the gym and practice it and go down wrong alleys and figure it out and work on it, because if I don't, then when it comes to that time when there is that 50-49 decision where it's not where you really have to trust. I haven't spent that time working on it.
That's exactly right. And for me, it's a spiritual thing, but it's absolutely the same concept. You have to spend time in quiet. You have to spend time contemplating. You have to spend time connecting. And you have to be ready, because you're not going to hear it if your mind is busy and full of clutter.
Every spiritual teacher that I have ever read about, and I've read world religions is one of my passions, and spirituality says exactly the same thing.
That's right. You just have to be awakened to it. And for me, a lot of it comes in music. I will wake up with a song in my head. And this morning, it was, I Will Praise You in the Storm. And as I was driving to our wall raising and praying desperately that it would not rain, I was like, thank you, yes, I will praise you in the storm, but please let the storm wait 2 hours.
Just 2 hours.
Just 2 hours.
That's all we need.
That's right. And it did. It waited 2 hours, and then it started, and we praised throughout the storm.
So what are the myths about Habitat for Humanity that is in general, that are out in the zeitgeist that we can dispel today, that help me to work through those?
Absolutely. Habitat is one of the most beloved brands, one of the top social brands in the country for several years in a row. It's just made a great name for itself, and yet people really don't understand what it does.
We see Jimmy Carter, and that's our window, and then it goes back into all the noise of all that we have in the.
Jimmy is beautiful. People have volunteered on it. They think all the materials are donated to us, that we give away the houses for free.
You get a house, and you get a house.
And that's exactly right. And the beauty of Habitat is that's not it at all. Jimmy Carter's a wonderful spokesperson, and bless his heart, still building at age 93 on Habitat. It's an amazing man, very, very caring about the world that he lives in. But Habitat is about a hand up, not a handout. It is about empowering people to take control of their lives. Homeowners that try to get into the program, apply for the program, have to have need. To demonstrate need, they have to have a willingness to partner with us. They have to be willing to put in 300 hours of sweat equity to earn what subsidy is in the program, and they have to have the ability to pay, because they have to be able to pay us back for the mortgage we're going to make to them after building the home. So we're a home construction entity. We're also the bank that holds the mortgage. And so, and that's what's so empowering about it, because you work that hard for something, and one, you don't ever want to fail. We have a very low delinquency and foreclosure rate. You don't want to fail. You want that to be successful. But it changes people's lives, because they've accomplished something they thought they would never accomplish. And at that point, they think, I can do anything.
That is
so wonderful to watch.
So there's so many waves that are beyond what you can see there. Now, Austin, we have. I don't think we're alone in this, but we're certainly, because we happen to be here, we're seeing that there is an affordability crisis, the gentrification that's happening. How does Habitat interact with that, intersect with that, and address with that?
It is here, and it is across the country. Habitat was founded in rural Georgia. We do builds around the world, so it's an international organization that deals with poverty housing around the world.
Sure.
But here in the United States, the story has shifted. We're no longer building just in rural areas. There's a lot of building going on in urban areas, and land is expensive. That's the critical issue today. The only two things I need to be successful are land and money.
Everything else I got. Give me land, give me money, and I'll take care of the rest.
That's right. I can make it happen. But land is hard to get. It's expensive, and it's I'm not the only person trying to buy it. And so getting that land to buy on, and then we're having to build a more complicated product, a denser product. We're having to build condos and townhomes and multi-story condominium projects. We are a for-sale ownership affordable housing provider, but we're having to do things we've never done before. That makes it exciting for me. It makes it exciting for our team and our supporters. but it does change what we look like and what we're providing. But it's still home ownership opportunities, and it's changing people's lives.
And so is there, when you think about this, do you think about, okay, what is this going to look like in 2 years? How is Habitat going to meet and be ready for what is going in such a disruptive times? I mean, you talked about
Absolutely.
fourplexes and eightplexes and going up and figuring out how we're going to do that. Is there any other model other than absolute ownership, mine, that Habitat thinks about?
There are some wonderful affordable housing providers that work in the rental space. Foundation Communities locally is one of those, and they do great work. And there are things that they have to specialize in and be good at in order to provide that service well.
So you don't
Yeah.
have to do that at all.
We don't need to do that. There are great people doing it. There aren't a lot of people doing the ownership space, and that's really our calling. That's what we're here for.
Exactly.
We're fortunate because not only do we have some land teed up and some projects teed up for the future, we've got at least 300, 400 units kind of lined up in various projects that are under development that will just continue to come online the next few years. But it's a continuous process. I mean, what I'm working on is, as these go on, what's the next one? And I've got to have something teed up because it takes several years to get things ready to the point that you can build on it and fundraise for it. But the thing that we really do have going for us is, and I mentioned the thrift store, but our restore.
Tell me about the restore, because this is, I love how your eyes light up when you talk about this.
I love our restore. Our restore is basically a home improvement store plus.
Yeah.
It is largely donated materials, but we have some liquidation product as well. So we have really, I think, perfected a retail model to support our organization, and it's unique in the types of things that it offers. Our restore has really become just a very profitable part of our organization, and our plan is to expand them. We've been on a fundraising campaign to get money for additional stores, because when we've got this sustainable funding source in stores that are providing good jobs for people, they're providing opportunities for people in our area to earn a living, but then also providing great product at a great price. We got great partners that we work with on helping get rid of things they need to get out of their storage and what have you. And
Exactly.
we're able to make that money and then turn around and put it in affordable housing. It's just a win-win-win, and it really enables us to do more. It's going to enable us to cover all our overhead. It's going to enable us to build more houses. It's going to enable us to leverage the grants and other funds that we can get and do more with what we have. And so we see that as the key to really increasing our production numbers in the future.
That is a tremendous opportunity to be able to do. So what is, in this particular part of your journey, what have you been learning about yourself as a leader, learning about yourself in this process that you're learning and growing?
I have learned that I think the older I get, the more I realize how little I know. And so I like being in a place where I'm having to learn, and I've worked really hard to surround myself with a lot of intelligent folks that are smarter than myself, and that's been very successful. Putting a great team together that I can rely on with diverse opinions. Don't agree every day, but we all have a heart for the mission, and we come together and we figure things out. And we work at it and we work at it until we get the answer. And so I'm so proud of that team that I work with. That's been a learning experience for me, because it's not all about me. And
No.
and I can't have all the answers. And the answers come from opening up those conversations and laying out your problems and then getting great advice and just continuing to iterate on it until you come up with a solution that's probably new and different than either one of you started in there with. But that's been huge for me. The other thing's been huge. It's my own faith journey. I'm spending a lot more time these days waking up in the morning in prayer and quiet contemplation, centering myself. I don't go into the workplace until I'm ready for it, and I don't get as worked up as I used to. I don't get as anxious as I used to, because
How wonderful.
and it is a blessing. You know, at some point I have to realize it's not all in my control, and when you can let that go and put good people together and solve those problems, it's not like we don't work hard. It's not like we don't, you know,
No.
constantly have struggles and obstacles thrown at us, but we can figure this out together. And and it's just been, I think I've enjoyed the last 4 years as much as any time I've ever worked.
That is wonderful. And I love that, because when I work with C-suite level people in my communication coaching career, I ask them, I say, well, I talk about the doorknob test. What is going through the head of the people that are coming to work at this place when they reach for the doorknob in the morning? Is it another day in the salt mine, or do they have a sense? What do you think is going on in their heads?
Well, I can't speak for 100% of them.
No, I know.
So
We can't.
we can't.
There's a problem anytime
No.
we go to 100%.
That's right.
Because
That's
it's
right.
not a binary state.
That's right.
It's are you moving them into, are they in that sweet
right.
spot?
So I see a group of people that regards this place as family. We had a man leave this summer for another opportunity out of state, and he was literally crying on his last day. And he said, you know, this is like leaving my family. This is so hard. I had a young man start this week, and super excited to have him on our team. And after his first day, he said to me, it's the strangest thing. And I go, what is it? And he goes, everybody here is so nice, and they really want me to be here. And I'm like, that's what it's all about. We're here doing something good, and I'm so glad you can be a part of it.
So you own that culture.
It's critically important to me. Yes.
That's what I mean. You say, look, you want to work here, you better have a good time and bring your best.
Yeah. Bring your best. It's not all about you. It's all about what we're doing. And we're here to make you better. We're here to provide opportunities for you to learn and grow. We're here to help you solve great problems in the world. And, you know, we know that people are going to go someplace else.
Absolutely.
And
that's
I tell
the
them,
journey of
exactly.
2018 and beyond.
Our job is to make sure that when you leave here, you have learned something and you're taking some great valuable experiences with you to that next job, because that's just going to benefit both of us.
Exactly. And by having that, to me, that's the attitude of abundance thinking. You can either think of it as a zero sum.
That's right.
There's only so much pie to go around, or we can think of it in a synergistic way that my job is to make you better. And if I make you better, everyone's going to win, even if it's making you better to go to succeed someplace down the road.
Amen. I so believe that. I laugh a lot because the pie metaphor is one of my favorites, because I'm always getting that, well, if they take this, there'll be less for me. And I'm like, no, if we don't have enough pie, we'll bake another pie. And we really do have to think of, you know, we live in a world where there is abundance. And there's a lot of people that want to give and that want to help us, and we just have to tell that story and tell it better and tell the right people. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And this is and this is what I love about when we're talking about the millennials, and we talk about, because millennials have gotten this reputation of saying that, oh, they want to come in the first day and be the CEO, and they're just not. And I don't think that's true.
No.
What I think they want is, on day one, show me I make a difference. And that's on us.
Right.
We have to set them up for a place that we're going to tell you why you're doing this. We're going to help you to succeed and give you the tools to succeed, and they will go beyond our wildest dreams.
Absolutely. Giving people that opportunity to be successful, putting them in a place where they can be successful, and praising them. And I will admit, I don't do it enough.
Yep.
That's probably the thing I need to work on the most. I made a list of things mid-year of things I need to work on, and one of them is praising people more, because it's like you tell them that you appreciate what they do, you tell them you care about them. But
that's right.
I've read and I've been told, and it's true, if you think you're doing it enough, do it 3 times as much as that.
Yep. And one thing that I found about praise is that the more nutritive it is the more specific.
It's specific, that's exactly.
The specificity of it. When you did this specific, rather than just
Right.
general good job.
You're awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, you're awesome. You're amazing. You're wonderful. Well, that's like a sugar high.
Right.
It feels good right then, but then it dissipates and it leaves me craving more. Rather than saying, let's focus on the effort.
That's right.
That's the growth mindset.
You stepped up and you did this and nobody told you to, or you had a better idea and a better way of doing it,
Yep.
or you had the guts to bring it forward when everybody else wanted to go a different direction. That's when, and that's what you have to make sure they hear.
Yep, and when they do, and that can be, and that is really the opportunity for a CEO for what leadership means. So how do you go through your own mid-year review? How do you ask people to know how you're doing with your team, to be able to get feedback from them? Because that's another thing that when I'm working with CEOs is that they begin to get a distance. They begin to feel like people are telling them what they want to hear rather than what is really going on. So what do you do to keep those lines of communication?
Well, I meet with my senior team, a lot of them weekly, some of them every other week. We then get together as an entire senior team weekly as well. There's a few outlier members that we'll meet with monthly just because they don't need that much constant feedback.
Sure.
But I mean, at a minimum, it's monthly, usually weekly. And then my senior team and I go off-site for retreats. So there's about 10 of us in total. A lot of different business units in the organization. And we do off-site retreats where we're either trying to problem solve for things we don't have time to figure out in the office, or we're just trying to work through what the future is going to look like, and just having a day to ourselves to do that. Those experiences have been invaluable in building us up. We recently attended a global leadership summit together, and so we spent 2 days just listening to other leaders, talking about what it meant to be leaders, and then came back and visited on it. And I think it makes us better and stronger. It keeps our lines of communication open, because I don't have any problem getting feedback. They don't have any problem telling me when I'm off. So.
Isn't that wonderful?
And it's wonderful. I mean, and I always say, I'm so glad that you're not afraid to come to me and tell me when I'm wrong, because I need to hear it.
Yep. And and one of the things, I love the Robert Fulghum, the guy that wrote Everything I Learned in Kindergarten. He has a line. He says, "Don't worry that your children aren't listening to you. Worry that they're always watching you."
Isn't that true?
And that's what your leaders are doing. I mean, you can sit there and preach all day and tell them how they do it and what they need to do, and it can be the best in the world. But they're going to go, how are you walking that walk?
That's right.
How are you being vulnerable? How are you admitting a mistake? How are you being willing to do that? That is really, to me, where the power of leadership comes in.
Yeah, it's being vulnerable, and it's being a part of the organization, not on top of it.
We were talking before the program, we were talking about women in leadership and what an extraordinary time this is. Are you seeing more CEOs and more senior level women in the organizations? I mean, you're in the nonprofit world, but you do interact with the for-profit world and work through that. Can you talk about what you're seeing there? And
I am. I think it's an interesting time. There are more women assuming leadership roles. I think women have a lot of strengths to bring to the table.
Yep.
I think we approach things differently, and we can jump into both worlds.
Yep.
I think one of the things we shared is, Gay Gaddis wrote a great book recently on women as leaders and how she's risen through the ranks. And I was just like, I was reading her, I was like, yes, I loved what she had to say because it was so true. We're able to jump back and forth. We're able to jump into the male world, and we can be tough, and then we can bring out our feminine side. And you need that in conversations. I'm in a CEO peer group, and we have some of the CEO peer groups are all male. Ours is about 50-50 males and females. And I think it's one of the better groups because we just bring such interesting perspectives to the table because we look at things differently.
Exactly.
And we're able to help each other. And so I find that to be tremendously
What does
helpful.
a CEO peer group, this helps you because nobody can know what it's like to be a CEO unless you've actually been there
Yeah.
and have had to do it. Is that the value of other people that are also going through this journey?
It is. It's the valuable of having that experience. It's the value of taking a day off every month from your day-to-day and concentrating on yourself and your work and purposefully making improvements and setting goals. It's a value of having people that you trust that can hold you accountable, who won't let you go and will tell you when you're wrong. And it's just, it's been one of the best things I've done.
God, that's wonderful. So what is, or is there anything specific that is on, well, here we are in 2018 and in September, late September. What is specifically on the fall agenda for Habitat that you are going to be investing your time and energy in?
Yeah, we get tired just thinking about it, but we are getting really close to moving into a second restore, so wrapping up that process. We are at the tail end of a capital campaign, which was to raise money for land and for restores, and so wrapping up that. We're going to increase our production numbers next year up to 25 homes, including 4 houses in the beautiful Miller subdivision, and so really excited about that, but jumping back up to that larger number again is going to be challenging in multiple ways, and so that's on the agenda. So those are 3 of the big ones that are out there, and then we've got the affordability bond, the housing bond that's going to be up for election in November, and so we're a key part of trying to help that get propelled forward and make sure people understand what it's for and that it helps organizations like Austin Habitat.
What is it for and how does it help you?
It is to raise a pot of money, if you want to just make it simple, that goes to help organizations provide affordable housing options in our community. A housing bond was passed several years ago and just has been depleted by the end of this year. The funds have been used, and they've been used for great projects. They've been used to help us develop land. They've been used to help with affordable rental housing. We've done a lot of critical home repair, as have many other organizations in our community with those funds. The money's been used to purchase additional land that can be used for affordable housing. So, it's necessary. If we're going to keep housing affordable in Austin, if it's going to be a community that's not just haves, if we're going to have diversity, and if we're going to have our working people in Austin able to live here, we've got to invest in affordable housing options. It's not going to happen naturally, and so I'm hopeful. It's polling well. It's a very important initiative, and I think once people understand that those dollars are leveraged, the last bond, the dollars were leveraged 7-to-1. Folks like us that bring in private dollars and volunteers and other types of support. It's not like we're just going out taking city money and creating affordable housing. We are putting a lot of different sources together, and so I think that's a great message.
This is one of the broad ones that goes through.
That's right. That's right.
And so where are we, Donna?
1.5.
We're done?
1.5 minutes.
We have 1.5 minutes,
Oh,
Phyllis.
that's wonderful.
So what else that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that we talk about today?
Well, I think that it is important for people in our community to think about what's important. Think about what's important in their lives, in the kind of community they want to see in the future, and then find a way to incorporate that into their own lives. I mean, a community is better when we all take part in it.
Yes.
And there are so many opportunities, so many different ways for people to get engaged. If they're interested in affordable housing, if they want to learn more about that, we would love to have a conversation with them and find a place for them to plug in. We have Habitat Young Professionals. We have a UT campus chapter that was on-site building today. We have all sorts of folks businesses and churches and individuals in the community that come together to build, and there's so many more great nonprofits in this community doing incredible work. So I think there's a place for everyone to find that will speak to them meaningfully.
Exactly, because when I think it's only for me, then it's just a one-way pipe. There's no reciprocity. It doesn't circulate, and then it begins to toxify.
That's right.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so much to talk
Yeah,
about.
could have kept going, but that's okay. That was really great.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As soon as we get, let me get that. Here you
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It is so much fun to have the history that I have with you, and then to know that both of us and with our families and how we're growing and learning, and we're just
Bringing this back, I was like, that is so cool. I'm so doing that.
And that's the other thing I want you to be thinking about. Who would you watch? Who might be somebody? Think in your world, and it might not, and it could be this headhunter. It could be some carpenter who, or it could be somebody else you know. It could be